Hey, hey, hey. Seems that everyone is here. Let me try and fix a little issue here where I'm hearing myself. That shouldn't happen. So yeah, I started my stream here and I used all the same settings as usual. Of course, you'll see that something weird happens when it's important. I'm just hearing myself back like with 5-second delay, and it's really, really loud. So I have to fix this first. So bear with me. I'm happy to see that Eric is already in the chat. It's nice that you can make it, Eric. I'm really happy that you're here. So please all bear with me for a minute. Are you hearing me at all, by the way? I think I found the culprit. I had a window open. I'm so happy I found it. I had a window open with the stream. So I was kind of watching my own stream, which is completely confusing if you don't expect it. So how is everybody doing tonight, today? I know in the US where Eric resides, it's... what is it, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon? So that's like Friday afternoon. Should be getting ready for the weekend, right? Eleven a.m. Ah, so you're... Then I'm completely wrong. So am I right, Eric, that you're on... it means you're on the West Coast? Scalpel is there as well. Let me have a watch who is here already. Low Rise, hi. A Horse in a Hospital, hi as well. Nice that you're here. Nistada, a lot of people from the Discord. That's always cool to see. Blastpast, of course. I'm happy you're here. Blastpast, am I right that you are East Coast? Yeah. Scalpel. Yeah, a lot of people from the Discord. I hope a few other people join in. I made a terribly viral Instagram video to announce the stream Usually my Instagram clips get at least like, I don't know, it's all relatively low, my play rates, but usually they get quite a few plays in a few hours. For some reason, this one got hidden by Instagram, I'm sure, because it only got like 10 plays in like five hours. So that's something weird. But well, these streams always get watched a lot after they have finished, which is a little bit confusing to me. But well, that's how it is. So let's just have fun with everyone who is here. You are all very welcome here to suggest stuff and to ask things to Eric. I think there was one question already by Nistada. Any reason why the color of the bit mix is lighter? I can say that it's in real life a little bit as well, because sometimes that's simply because of how the light is falling on the modules. But I remember that Eric at some point asked me about this. There was a little bit of a problem with like the aluminium provider not being able to supply aluminum with consistent colors. So I'm guessing that's simply why that is. I just well, in preparation of this stream, which is going to be mainly focusing on boundary layer and the other Schlappi engineering modules here, so in preparation of this stream, I watched the video that Eric made about boundary layer a few weeks ago. It was like almost a month ago. And I got really inspired by it to try a few things that I hadn't tried before. So let's try one of them. One of the things that Eric showed us in that video. Was using the max and the min output of boundary layer as a stereo pair. And I'll walk everyone through the basics of the module as we go along with the patches. I won't do like an extensive playthrough here on live stream. That's a little bit silly. You can watch that just by clicking the appropriate video on my channel, but I will go through the basic functionality as we go. So if there's anyone in the chat or someone that has joined later or is watching this after the fact, have no fear. Brice is here. So I have the max and the min, which gives us the maximum output of all three channels and the minimum output of all three channels. I think for min, all three channels have to be active, for max not. Or is it the other way around? I don't think so. Currently, we're at LFO rates here. You can turn these knobs down. Let me zero all of this. Now I'm sure I am clipping because I can see it on the sound card here. So as soon as something is off with the sound, please let me know. I want this to go well. Schlappi engineering I'm stumbling on my own words here. So Schlappi engineering, Eric answered the question about the silver panels. The option was to stop doing silver or let them vary a bit in finish, and Brice likes them, so we kept making them. So boundary layer is a triple channel function generator or a slew limiter. It depends on how you look at it, or maybe it's just semantics. We have 3 identical channels with separate inputs for every channel. There's also shared inputs here. And these first knobs are the rise or attack stage. The second knob is the fall or release stage if you patch it as a slew or ADR envelope. And what Eric did in his video was patch these this max and min out as a stereo pair, which I've done as well now, and then use like one of the envelopes cycling at low rates, and he described this as this pushes the min and the max around. And in this case that's from the left to the right. And I think we can hear this if you're listening in stereo with good headphones or a good speaker set. And if I shut my mouth for a minute, you can hear that indeed we have this nice stereo movement. Vankman, hey Vankman, nice that you're here. I don't think I have seen you before. Blastpast, I was so impatient to get my angle grinder at the same time. I got it in black. Now and all the other modules are silver. Yeah, that's harsh. And Istada says, I'm curious about the waveforms you get out of the 3 channels when using S3 audio rate oscillators. Well, it's always going to be a saw wave, a triangle wave, or like an inverted saw wave. But you can make them like bent, logarithmic, or exponential, which you do with this knob here. As long as nothing is connected to the CV inputs here, this is just a shape control. And when this switch here, which is tied to this knob, and you have this switch for all 3 channels, when this switches to the top position, you make the shape more logarithmic, which is more rounded. And if you switch this switch to the bottom position, you make it more exponential, which is more like a skate ramp. If you imagine that. And you can decide whether this shape is affecting the attack or the attack or the release, or both. Well, I'm saying release. You could say it's decay or just rise and fall as it is printed on the panel here. So you can choose that. Anyway, let's just... What I want to do is find like a nice interval here. Something like that. Now we can use this center envelope, which is kind of pushing our sound from left to right. We can turn these attenuators down to increase the speed here. By the way, I've set all three functions here to cycle, which you can do with this knob here. If you set this to the low position, you need a trigger input or a slew input here for the function to do anything. Now this is, as Eric called it, a cool stereo drone. Scalpel says, oh god, it sounds so freaking good. I know, right? It sounds great. Let's find a few other intervals that sound nice. This is really lovely. Well, and since we're here anyway, let's make a little patch around this. I'm not just going to show you the things here. I will make little patches around it. I mean, that's more fun for me anyway. Let's start Pamela's new workout here. I've connected a clock from Pamela's new workout. Pamela's new workout is always connected through a mult. So I'm not coming straight from the module, but this is a clock from Pamela's new workout going into the clock input of Nibbler here. Something cool. Schlappi Engineering says, solid didgeridoo territory. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but definitely. It has these nice overtones. So I think Eric will be able to elaborate on this a little bit. Well, maybe. But there's this guy on YouTube making awesome videos and doing research really about Nibbler and creating interesting rhythms with it. I think it's Eric Hinton. Eric with a K, if I remember correctly. So if anyone is curious about doing really cool things with Nibbler, you should look up that Eric Hinton. Yes, that's the one. You should really look up that person. He's doing awesome things. And one thing that he demonstrated was how to create cool rhythms with a Nibbler that transcend the regular stuff that you would do with it. And I'm not going to explain it. I mean, you have to watch his videos, but well, very short. He uses feedback from the Nibbler, from the bit outputs to the bit inputs to create patterns that are longer but still repeating. So I think he set it to counting or adding. No, it was subtracting 7, and then he used, let me take a shorter cabling. I think the one output patched back into the gate 8 input, and this gives us an interesting rhythm. But what I want to do is not use the bit outputs for now. I'm just using the stepped output here. I'm going to attenuate it here. I hope that's correct. And then I can send this stepped voltage that's attenuated coming from this cable here into the shared CV input on boundary layer. I think this sounds great. Meanwhile, Eric is talking about Eric Hinton in the chat. Eric says he's giving me a... Wait. He's giving me a bout? I don't know. He's giving me a load of really good patch ideas I don't think I would have discovered otherwise. Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing, I think. The way Eric Hinton discovered all these cool patches was by simulating Nibbler in like software and then like running it thousands of times. That's my understanding, at least. To find the most interesting things, and he kind of honed in on those interesting things and well, did deep dives and discovered new things. It's really cool. So Nistada asks, so you can use 2 channels as a stereo oscillator and one channel as their envelope? Yeah, definitely. The 3 channels can be used independently. You can use 1 channel as an envelope. Now, of course, because I'm using the min and the max outputs, it's a little bit special, because that involves logic between the 3 oscillators. So there's magic happening behind the panel there. But you can, if you use a mult or a stackable cable, you can just use, like for example, the center function as an envelope for whatever, for the CV of the outer ones, or for the boundary, the bound control. More on that later. Well, I'm saying more on that later. Maybe more on that now. So these channels have the bound feature, which is a feature that's identical on boundary, the like predecessor with the built-in VCA. And with the bound control, it's like a limit, the threshold to where the attack to where the rise can rise, and as soon as it reaches the threshold, the function switches over to the fall stage. So you get like how do I explain this easily? Eric, help me out here. So you get like cycling envelope. If you're using it as a cycling envelope, you get cycling envelopes that are less in amplitude if you send in a lower CV control here. So if you send in 0, this kind of acts as a VCA, because it stops. The threshold is at 0, so there's no rising, no falling happening. So if we connect an output from the gate output from Nibbler here to the bound input, we should be hearing that this is starting to be gated. Of course, this is affecting our logic as well, just as a proof of concept. Yeah, so normally the cycling switches from rise to fall, what is it, 10 volt? But when CV is patched in there, it lowers the threshold, where it kind of well, changes direction. Let's find a new normal here. Let's add some reverb to this, am I right? And some delay. Maybe let's add the odd drum here as well. Hi, Fonnet Kilo Lama. He says they say sounding groovy over here. Thank you very much. Welcome to the stream, by the way. We're talking about boundary layer today and the other Schlappi engineering modules. If you have any questions for founder and inventor extraordinaire Eric Schlappi is in the chat. So you can ask questions if you want. Oh, that was weird. I need a longer cable here. Can you imagine? It's already terribly long. Well, it's always the same, isn't it? Really cool. Fonnet says amazing. I really love the boundary. I bet the boundary layer is 3 times the fun. Well, kind of really, yeah. You lose the VCA, but well, there's so much cool functionality. Function generators are amongst my favorite modules. There's like this trope that you can't have enough VCAs. Well, I oppose that. I'd say you can't have enough envelope or function generators. And this one is just, like I said, in the interview we did last week with Eden Gray from CV Freaks. I told her that like boundary layer is just an instant favorite of mine. It's such a great tool. Let's change something up here on Nibbler. I mean, it's amazing how flicking one switch in the down position changes everything to this. Now I like the previous one more. Maybe we should get another Nibbler going, because why not? Oh, that's short happening there. So let's do something different with this one here. Maybe I can take my hi-hat trigger from the second one here. Nistada says fun rhythms, musical stuff out of the Nibbler. Well, there's so much music inside Nibbler, you wouldn't expect it. But let me run this attenuated sequence here through a quantizer first. So I think we're going for the minor scale here today, or at least for this patch. Maybe we should go for pentatonic. Now I'm just changing the attenuation of this output of Nibbler here. Maybe I should change out one of the chords going to the bound input here to an output of this Nibbler. I mean, you always get these interconnected cool rhythms, especially if you use two Nibblers, which I'm lucky enough to be able to. And let's now use let's send the second Nibbler to my attenuator as well. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Maybe complete chaos. But no, I think I really like this. And let's now go back to running this center function here at audio rates, because that's when the real craziness came out. I really like this. Now for a final experiment with this particular patch, I want to run everything through a pair of filters here. I know you can see them, but I have a duo of discrete SVVCF filters here by Manhattan Analog. Let me just run the outputs of boundary layer through those. I'm using the band pass, bound pass, band pass. I never know outputs. Maybe I should use the low pass outputs. Those are a little bit louder. And then if I now use like 2 of the stepped outputs that are left here on the nibblers to modulate my frequency on my filters, that should give us some cool movement. Dada says, from my knowledge of shift registers, this is outstanding concerning musical abilities. Schlappi engineering corrects this because I'm indeed not using it. The Nibbler is at a shift register, just a counter, but you can do just you can do musical stuff just as easily with Nibbler when using it as a shift register. The key there is to use a clock at the speed of your patch. Hey Wave Hoarder, hey, it's nice that you are here. Wave Hoarder has been posting awesome content lately. They've been making a lot of cool videos, pretty in depth about a few Schlappi engineering modules, but also other brands. I've been enjoying their videos very much, and I think everyone should have a go and look around if there's anything that you want to see. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to pull out all the cables for this patch and let's do something else. By the way, I've been using boundary layer for chords a lot, and what you then can do is there's a like what is called? It's a jumper on the back that lets you change out the minimum output to a mix output, which kind of makes sense if you use this as a triple oscillator bank. Then you can just use one output which has a mix of all 3 of them. Now you could argue that max, mid and min have kind of a mix of all 3 as well, but if you switch the min output to a mix output, it's really just an average mix. I didn't do this. I wanted to do it, but then I saw the patch in Eric's video that I just showed to you, and I wanted to keep that min intact. Well, let's do that. Let's make some chords. Why not? Because what we just did were not chords. And let's try using one of these logic outputs here as a mono output. Let's just see what happens. Let's kill the reverb and the delay here. So wait, now nothing is left. How is that possible? Maybe I should use the min. Why is this? I think I'm using wrong outputs here. Yes, that was the reason. Sometimes I get confused by my own mixer here. That's kind of a chord, right? Let's listen to the other logic outputs. This is a little bit differently sounding. But this is same-ish. Let's do something else instead with them. Let's just mix them like manually with a chord that I mean. Let's just send the separate outputs to the mixer input on my filter. That way I have a little bit control over how distorted it will sound. As you can hear. A Horse in Hospital says that's a B major chord. Is it? Like, I have no clue. Maybe let's change it up and see if the Horse in Hospital can spot. Now that's something dark. I like it very much. What I wanted to try with this simple chord patch is use an output of 3-body set to low, because you might forget about it, but you can use 3-body as a really capable LFO module. I mean, it has sync inputs and these ratio controls make so much sense. I'm going through an attenuator from one of the outputs here. I'm using a sine output there, and then I'm just going out of that attenuator. Well, I'm being silly here. I don't even need this attenuator. Let's just use a mult cable here. And let's just send a copy of my what do I want to say here? A copy of my LFO coming from 3-body to all CV inputs here on boundary layer. And then I can demonstrate to you that as soon as you plug something into these CV inputs, these knobs turn into attenuators for that CV. So they are no longer shaping the envelopes or the functions. They're now shaping the length of these stages. And you can still control whether this is only for the rising stage, for both, or for the fall stage. And with this switch here that is tied to the CV knob, you kind of invert, because it's not an attenuator. There's no inverter on this knob unless you switch this switch to the bottom position. So these CV inputs operate well, the other way than this shared CV input, which you can use as a sort of volt per octave input. The tracking is limited, and on a volt per octave or tracking input, if you send in a higher CV, the function will get shorter because the frequency has to go up. On the regular CV inputs, this is the other way around. If you send in, well, if you have the switch to the positive setting here and you send in positive or higher voltage, the length of the functions will increase. For this example, it doesn't matter. I just want to add some vibrato here to all three channels. Let's turn it down really, really low. So a horse in a hospital, that was a pun. That's a B, so it wasn't a typo there, that you typed B later. I'm really confused now. This Phonets is asking in the chat about a patch comparable to a surge wave multiplier. Eric says he needs to do some research for that. Waveholder is also talking about the feedback patches on Angle Grinder, I guess. So this is my chord patch with vibrato coming from 3-body. Now let's try something here, because I want to demonstrate to you how a powerful LFO a 3-body is. So I'm just going to use a clock here, send it to the sync input on the center channel on 3-body. I switch it to ratio mode, and then this should be, if I turn all the phase modulation down, this should be in time with my clock. It's still the same clock coming from Pamela's new workout. And then if I start dividing this clock on the side channels here, you can see how that is indeed happening. And if I now take like maybe a square output from the center channel, send it into an attenuating mixer, send another square LFO from the right channel into the same attenuating mixer, and then if I take the mixed output, Let's just send that into the CV input on boundary layer here. Maybe I should slow down this one first. What am I doing wrong here? Yes, this wasn't set to ratio mode. Let's just see what happens. Now this is really cool. Well, let's send this through a quantizer first, because at the moment it's a little bit dissonant, and with these chords maybe that's a little bit of a shame. Let's try it out like this. Maybe I should add some kind of offset. That's too much, Simon. Let's go for major scale here. And let's add some reverb and delay. Now let's, you know what I'm going to do, right? Let's add some kick drum to this. Now this is an unexpected relationship between my sequence and my drum. I didn't expect this wonky stuff. It's amazing how you can end up with like completely different things than you were expecting. But I can change this by changing the dividers here on 3-body. Because I'm sure we're dividing by 5 or something, that's why it's so weird. Wow, but this is really, really wonky. It's almost as if it's not correlated at all, and yet it is. I'm starting to wonder if it really is, because but that's I mean, how wonky is this? Can I get a woot woot? Oh wow. Maybe I should add a hi-hat. Maybe that will solve all my wonky problems here. This is too much. This is just too much. Let me spend another minute or two finding something that makes sense. And if I don't find anything, let's just pull out the cables. This is already better. Yes, you found something. Taking patch notes. You're making fun of me, I'm sure. Polly Everything says a horse in a hospital. Wayforder says love it, so maybe not making fun. Schlappi says yes. Well, yeah, this makes more sense, right? I don't know. I'm guessing it has something to do with the phase relationship of those outputs compared to my clock. But well, you can hear how this works. And we still have the vibrato going on as well. Maybe you can hear me coming there, like hear me coming about Nibbler. Let's add a Nibbler. Let's add some transposition. For some reason I screwed it up again. I add some transposition. What happened here? Something at least. Let me take the clock of my kick drum here. Patch that to Nibbler. Wayforder assures me that they're making no fun at all. Blastbus says, lol, heck yeah, love the wonk. Well, I love some wonk as well, but well, sometimes it's just too much wonk. And now if somebody is going to say there can be too much wonk. But I beat you. Someone said Meshuggah got nothing on this. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough for this. Oh yeah, I said it's going to be enough, but I have to show you that you can like use all the outputs on 3-body at the same time. Of course, you can modulate your filter with a few of these outputs as well. Maybe increasing the wonk even more. Yeah, definitely more wonk. Now I'm just trying to destroy what we made here. Schlappi Engineering says, sounds drunk like some Prime Minister Oizo. Monsieur Oiseau, well, he's one of my favorite all-time electronic producers, so I like that. In any case, let's get rid of all of this. It's a situation where you could say, go home, you're drunk. But it's just my rack. I didn't have a drink. Oh, yeah. Let's remove this snare here as well. I'm going to be very uninspired here today with my drum sounds. I'm just going to use the same ones over and over again just because I have patched them up and they're just really quickly to get to. They just serve as some kind of context for what we're doing here with the Schlappi range of modules. By the way, Eric, something that it hasn't been bothering me, but I've been wondering about it. Is it Schlappi or Schlappi? Because I used to always say Schlappi engineering because that's how we would say it in Dutch or like in German, Schlappi. But then like this year it hit me like, hey, maybe it's Schlappi. But well, which one is the OG pronunciation? Can you help a guy out here? Oh, almost fell over my chair here. I'm a little bit high energy. I hope no one minds. I'm going to have a sip of drink here. We say Schlappi like slap. Okay. So Schlappi, right? Okay, but the name is of Swiss origin. So maybe it is more like Schlappi. Is it your original name, Eric? Is your name Eric Schlappi? Well, with a name like Schlappi, you could go both ways. It could be like a cool invented like nickname, or it could be like indeed an European inspired name. My name is Eric Schlappi. Yeah, cool. Good to know. Good to know. So when I say Mr. Schlappi, I'm really calling you how you're supposed to be called. How is the mustache, Eric? Why did you decide to not convert? Why did you chose to transition from having a full beard on your face to well, just a mustache? It's such a visually drastic change. I wonder if there's some kind of cool punky story behind it. Eric says, the Germans think I'm funny due to a variety of interpretations or an allusion to Schnappi. Schnappi, das kleine Krokodil. Ich bin Schnappi, das kleine Krokodil. En saufen is alles wat ich will. No, I don't know how the lyrics go. I think the mustache, Eric says, I think the mustache makes me look more fun. A little bit less serious, maybe. But I like serious. Also, it goes with the mullet. Yeah, you're going for the classic 80s look then. Anyway, let's have a look at let's have another look at boundary layer here, because that's what we're here for, right? We're having too much fun. Let's try patching up like boundary layer as a one voice oscillator, maybe with some filtering. Yeah, maybe that's what I want to do. Why not? And then we can use the third channel to well, maybe we can use the third channel to control like a filter here. Yeah, let's do that. So one channel is set to cycling, the other is not. I'm doing things wrong here. I should take this output. So I've taken the signal output from the first channel, which is just cycling, into the slew input of the second one, which now will slew everything that's coming in. And now that's just like a saw wave. Then the slew input will, the channel that is set to slew will function as like maybe a filter, as you can hear. And let's do some quick let's do a quick change here to my patch. Let's take another clock output here. Let's send it to Nibbler. Well, let's use a Nibbler as a shift register. Just going to slow down my clock to 120 BPM. Not that it matters. Now for a shift register you also need some kind of input, and it doesn't really matter what you use, as long as it's fast enough to be registered. So we're going to send something to the shift data here. And then I always get confused when I'm patching up shift registers, but I'm going to send out the out 8 here into the data XOR. That way the information gets looped back and like mixed together with the new information and in an XOR fashion. Let's switch these two down because they don't really, we don't really need them. And now Nibbler is working as a shift register just at our clock rate. So I can send this signal to an attenuator. By the way, Eric, maybe I'm saying or mentioning things that I shouldn't, but I've been using the dual vector foil, the prototype, as an attenuator for this video. Is there any news about this module? I know you plan a rework of the whole idea. Can you say anything about it? I kind of forced you to do now, but it's a dual comparator, but I'm using it as a attenuating mixer right now. Schlappi says, haha, no, I don't know. Okay. Let's send this stepped voltage through the scales quantizer once again, And let's use... I can use the regular CV input here. Then I need to invert it. It's not going to track volt per octave. But I can get it close. Why is nothing? Should I use something else here as an input for my shift register? Yeah, I should. So, well, by the way, to explain what I'm doing here, I'm sending in octaves. I've set my quantizer to octaves. Sending those to the CV input, which isn't calibrated to volt per octave at all. And then I'm using this attenuator here. I've inverted the signal because I need it to go shorter when the voltage goes higher, which I explained earlier. And now I'm using the attenuator here to like find where the octaves sound like octaves. And that's usually how I kind of calibrate my CV attenuators when I'm working with like filters and stuff that hasn't got a volt per octave input. What I then do is add a fifth on the quantizer to hear if that still holds up, which in this case it does. So now I can start adding more notes. Let's go for a minor scale here. Let's take out a few notes. So by the way, this is how you can get all three voices sequenced separately if you don't expect it to track awfully well and if you have some patience. Schlappi Engineering says, I'm trying to figure out what the CV utilities would look like. I have a few more prototypes, but it's hard to do anything new in that space. Yeah, I agree. But the dual comparator, well, there's brands that already made one. I know Metabolic Devices made a dual window comparator. Of course, Joran from Joranolog has the dual window comparator as well. But the regular dual comparator is something that I sometimes lack when dual vector foil is not in my case, because you can't do the same things with a window comparator as with a regular comparator. There's workarounds, but well. And currently Eric is working on time-based effects. That's really interesting, but because I do everything in the FPGA, I spent months designing a RAM driver in Verilog. No clue at all. No, I don't like this scale. Let's go for pentatonic once again. So now we can... What am I doing? I've patched this through to a filter, but I already said that I'm going to use boundary layer itself as a filter. Well, so let's now just patch the output of the third channel into the CV input of the second channel, controlling like, well, the amount of slew, really. I should set this to cycling. And I think I should invert it. Yes, something like that works for me. Then we take an output of the bit outputs for the shift of the shift register here. Is that to trigger sync my delay here. So as you can hear, the tracking is not great because, well, that's to be expected. I'm using the completely uncalibrated regular CV inputs with the attenuator set to a certain point. Anyway, now we have like an oscillating channel here, which is our VCO. We're controlling it with some sequence here. I'm sending the output into the slew input of the second channel. I've turned up the slew quite a lot to the point where really nothing is coming through, and then I'm using CV to shorten the length or to raise the frequency of this slew limiter, acting as CV control on regular filter. And of course the third channel is creating the envelope that I'm using to modulate this center channel. Doing this will not give you like a resonant filter, but it's a fun experiment nonetheless. Let's add a quick kick drum. Why not use an output of Nibbler here? This is going to give us a little bit of a random situation because Nibbler is being used as a shift register. Let's add that hi-hat. Maybe I can slow down my Nibbler here. No, that's way too slow. And then I can maybe change out the trigger for the third channel here on boundary layer to like a probability gate. Schlappi Engineering says turning cycling on kind of sounds like resonance, not always in a good way. Let's try it. I'm guessing I have to... Aha! Yes, I see what you mean. This sounds a little bit like the resonance that you can get on the Manhattan analog the Steiner, the Synthasystem Steiner Parker filter clone. It's not a bad sound, but it's not the greatest resonant sound either. I think it works. Well, it does kind of sound nice here. I'm going to pull out the cables here and let's just try one more patch before I call it quits for today. I know, time flies. If you're having fun, I don't know what's happening here, but it sounds cool. Yeah, I know what's happening. Wonky. I can't possibly demonstrate every use of a boundary layer in a like freestyle video live stream. That was not my intention anyway. I just wanted to have fun creating a few interesting patches to get those inspiration juices flowing. And maybe get some cool tips from Eric. Like the one with the resonance we just tried, which is a cool idea to try when the moment is there. So what can we do? Let's create a stereo subharmonic and let's explain it this way. I'm going to create a sequence for 3-body. I'm going to do it with a shift register setup on Nibbler. Let's create subharmonics on the outer layers, outer channels here, and let's create a sync tone in the middle. So maybe we won't listen to the output of 3-body at all. Well, and let's use the trig input. This is a shared trig input, and this triggers all 3 function generators at the same time. Let's switch this to free. These don't, it doesn't really matter what these are switched to, because I'm only going to use the center channel here on 3-body. Let's monitor it first so we can hear what we are doing. What you can do if you're patching up a shift register, you can just use the output of your VCO as a source for information. And then you can use any kind of clock, preferably one that follows the tempo of your patch if you're wanting to use what do I want to say here? If you're wanting to use the stepped output as a sequence. Once again, going through the quantizer, first through an attenuator. Finally, a minor scale that works for us. this a lot. But well, let's stop listening to what 3-body is sending out, and let's listen to first the center channel here on boundary layer. Now this is not set to cycling, but let's do that. And this, when we send a signal, a VCO, into a cycling function here, or at least if it's at audio rates, we can create like this sync effect. And of course we can control this with CV. Let's sync one channel on 3-body here. No, I used the wrong input here. The sync input is the one I need. And let's modulate that fall parameter. Sounds awesome, right? Well, Scalpel says so much. Yeah, I think that sounds great. I like it when sounds start falling apart and start breaking. So this is awesome. So this is our mono-centered sound here. Now let's listen to... Let's mute this for a moment. Sorry, I'm hitting my camera here. Let's mute this for a moment and... Oh, that's a little bit too loud. So this is the output of the left channel here. I will not set this to cycling. We will make subharmonics with this by turning up the attack. You can use the end of cycle output, which gives you more a pulse wave, but I like using the regular outputs. And we can do the same thing with the right channel here. Let's listen to that. And we can modulate that as well. Now let me do something else here first. I'm going to use the right channel on 3-body here. Just so I can use the sine and cosine outputs on the center channel here to modulate these subharmonic generators. So let's listen to both of these as a stereo pair, and then if I connect like I said the sine here, let's switch the center's channel to LFO rates. Let's connect the sine to... Let's first set this switch so the CV controls the attack, because that's the control that's working for us now. And let's do the same thing with the cosine for the right channel here. We're just affecting the attack here. It doesn't really matter what direction. I could have just used a multed signal and switched the inversion around, but the cosine isn't really the inverted version. It's a phase shifted version. Let's bring back in the center sync tone. I think we will have to bring down or bring up the harmonics a bit to make sense. I always think that abusing subharmonics like this is the best thing ever. You have a very repetitive pattern here. Let's change it up. Settled on the same pattern. So weird. Let's remove this so it just keeps spitting out random voltages. Schlappi says, I love this patch. Me too, Eric. It sounds great. Now, should I can zoom out a little bit here, and if I do, you should be able to see that there's well, you can barely see it, there's a beat there. So let me connect my stereo signal, so the outer channels here, to the left and right inputs of that. Just so I can add more reverb and maybe some grains. Sounds cool. Should I do it? Should I add some drums to this? Yeah, reverb and delay sometimes do sound like cheating, or feel like cheating. Let's see what's happening here in Pamela's new workout. Apparently. Why is that? Down. Apologies for this, I'm just trying to find a decent setting for my kick drum trigger. want it slower. Yes. Something like that. And actually, let me... I want to create some sidechain, but my hardware compressor is no longer working, my outboard one. So I'm quickly trying to problem solve how I can still add one. No, that's not going to cut it. So I need to invert this envelope. Let's see if I can pull it off really quickly. I'm going to use more 4 here to try and... I'm not sure, is anything that I'm doing still on screen, or am I just completely off screen right now? Okay, so far not very good. But that's because I haven't connected anything to the VCA. I hope to pull it off in like one try. Yes. Hell yeah. Now let's do the same thing for the main mono sound there. That's what I'm talking about. So what I did, I created an envelope at the same time as my kick drum, and I inverted it and offsetted it and used that as a CV source for a VCA. Let's take this cable here. Let's see if I can. Let's try. Trying to do things a little bit quicker here, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm already really grateful that Eric could be here in the chat. Something like this will have to be okay. Dial back beats a little bit, because, well, it's it's a little bit over the top. At least now you can hear those subharmonics again. What has everybody been saying here? Blastpast has an interesting patch tip to send your oscillator first through a delay and then through a filter, which can help in creating like fake polyphony. Sorry, there's something that is itching my nose and I'm not sure what it is. Horse in Hospital says, I'm hearing some fast trappy heads here personally, like this almost witch house territory. The side chaining really works. Nice, yeah. I'm not sure what witch house is. Is that a musical genre, or are you just really referring to the house of a witch? Because I'm not sure, is that a musical genre? And I think these are kind of fast trappy heads. Mind you, I'm not using a sequencer here, it's just all probability and gates from Nibbler. Well, not in this patch, but in the previous patches it was. What happens when I change out the trigger for the kick drum to an output of Nibbler? Does that still work? Yes, actually. Makes it a little bit more jazzy. So let's like witch house jazz. Scalpel, isn't it something for your prog band? It is my leech, it is. There's a few things that I wasn't able to do, but I'm going to end the stream, well, like 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not going to build another patch because I'm not kind of getting tired. And well, we've been at it for how many minutes? Like 1 hour, 44 minutes. I think that's long enough to keep everyone's attention span. So thank you all for being here. I'm not gone yet. There's a few things that I haven't been able to try. One of them was I wanted to patch up an interesting clock by chaining the different let me turn down the music a little bit. I wanted to patch up an interesting clock by chaining the 3 channels, using the bit mix to mix the end of cycle outputs and use that as a wonky clock. Something that I've been enjoying a lot, and having 3 channels is always great. That gives, well, it's more interesting than 2, maybe less interesting than 4, but you can't have it all. Eric says, interesting, I haven't tried it. Well, I have a live stream from a few weeks back that was talking about clocks, where I explored different ways to create interesting clocks. And it's something I do a lot. I think in that video I did it with 2 delta V's, so that's 4 function generators. By chaining the end of cycle output of the first to the trigger input of the second, and etc. And the last one back to the first one. If you get it going by looping one just for a minute, a second really, you can extract the end of cycles, so you have to melt them. You can extract the end of cycles as clocks, and then you can create really wonky, like J Dilla's feeling beats with no set time, and then you can start doing dialectical patching, like with patching back to the CV of the decay stages, of just when changing up one of the stages, the rise or the fall, everything changes drastically. It's a really cool thing to try out. How is my sync sound? That's better. If there's anything that you want to still ask Eric, I think now is the time, because we're soon going to end this stream. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's always fun exploring function generators. As I said, they're my most favorite type of Eurorack module. And there's so much that you can do with it. Subharmonics, sync tones, oscillators, filters, slew, clocks, whatever. You can do so much. Scalpel says, thanks for coming and answering our questions, Eric. Yeah, apologies, I wasn't able to read everything in the chat. Sometimes there were interesting discussions going on. I was too invested in my patching here. You guys were talking and I was just thinking like, just let him patch. Just let him do his thing, which is perfect. That's how I like it. Scalpel says, and thanks for the stream and the nice patches, Brice. Thanks, Scalpel. Schlappi Engineering says, great stream. He also mentions that the contact form on the website is the easiest way to get a hold of him. Always stoked to hear back from people. Often feel like I'm operating in a void. I can imagine that is when you are running a business. By the way, I plan on doing some kind of podcast interview situation in the future. And I strongly think about asking Eric. Well, I already did, and he already said I'm up for everything, up for whatever. My plan is to not just talk about the Eurorack stuff, but also everything live, everything that surrounds it. And talking about the benefits of having a business and the downsides. One of the downsides I can imagine is like you're feeling that you're operating in a void. So maybe that's something interesting to talk about. Scalpel helped me with the name. He came up with the name The Waves Within Deep Talk with Brice. And I think I'm going to keep that name because it really resonates with me. So if you're enthusiastic about that, keep an eye out on the YouTube. If you want to support me, you can do so on Patreon and Ko-fi. I think I have a screen here somewhere. Let's see. Let's risk it. Yeah. So they should now be on screen, the links to the Ko-fi and the Patreon pages. Don't feel obliged, but if you if you feel the need to support me, there's where you can go. And then you can have access to the Discord, channel, the Discord server, where we talk more often about all kinds of things. You can reach me there almost at all times. And you have as soon as a video is finished, I usually post it there already, even when it's not yet published on the YouTubes. Scalpel says, yeah, I'm smart like that. John BDM said, sounds great, Brice. Congrats. See, I'm getting tired here. Congrats, he says. Congrats, Schlappi, on another nice module. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said to Eden Gray in our interview, it's an instant favorite of mine. Definitely. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Eric, for joining in the chat as well. Even though you feel like you're operating in the void, I'm sure you have busy days following like a release of a module like Boundary Layer. And I know you're always working on new stuff. Me and everyone else is always excited to find out what you're working on, because usually when you come with something it's usually very much worth it. I'm going to sign off. Thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed the journey today, and see you next time.